Welcome. I wanted to make some comments about discussion board one. And if this were a non-online class, if this were a face-to-face class, we could have a conversation about it. And instead, you're sort of going to get a monologue from me. I apologize in advance. Thank you, first of all, to everyone who submitted their discussion board posts on time. That was everybody. Yay! And the posts were complete. So again, thank you. Almost everyone remembered to cite references. So again, thank you. And I could tell you had done the readings. So again, thank you for that. Please write in complete sentences, and also do not upload documents into the discussion board. That might have seemed confusing because I did say to you that it would be a good idea to type your answers into a Word document so that you don't lose your information. But I also then followed that with and then cut and paste that information into the discussion board. So when I go into a discussion board, what I should see is a new thread, which everybody did, and then your text right in the discussion board. I shouldn't have to upload anything to my computer, type comments on it, and then save it, and then have to reattach it back to you. And I always grade on Sundays and Mondays. So if you've got your work done on Sunday, your grade will be done on Sunday. And if not, then, or if it's later than I grade, then it'll be done first thing on Monday unless something comes up. And I put grades in the grade book at that same time. There were a few common misconceptions that I saw throughout the posts. And so if you simply made a mistake or there was an error, I addressed it then. But if I saw numerous people in the class making the same error, then I just thought it would be smart to bring that up and address it as a class. And so the most common one was that a vowel diphthong, you guys possibly Googled diphthong or vowel diphthongs, and a common one that came up would say diphthong and give you EW. Well, that is a diphthong, but that's not a vowel diphthong. Vowel diphthongs contain two vowels, as in cloud or language. And so make sure that you're noting the difference there. And then environmental print requires words and letters to be considered print. Now, I totally understand that when we think of reading now, we are inclusive, that we read a room, when we walk into it, there's body language, that reading does not have to require text now. But what we're talking about with environmental print is a precursor to students learning reading text. And so you want the actual letters to be present. And so when we're talking about again, when we're talking about environmental print, we could include logos that have letters. So not just the check mark from Just Do It, but the word Nike as well. Products that we purchase, so a can of peas with the word peas and then a picture of peas, or you go into the grocery store and you see the word grapes on a sign and then you show the child grapes, so they make that association. Or I don't know what cartoons children are watching now, but if it was Barney and it had the word Barney and then the show came on, there were some great billboards around, maybe dangerous, but they would say this is a purple square. And so that would be environmental print as well. And then you guys were given a choice on page 128 for the Vaka and Vaka text. I think it was page 128. And almost everybody chose question number 1. A few of you chose question number 2. Concepts about print. And so what you're doing when you are checking a child's concepts about print is you're not seeing if that child can read yet. What you're doing is seeing if that child has been introduced to ideas about print, such as we read right to left, unless we're reading Hebrew, but in America, standard text, we read right to left. We're turning pages, moving from the beginning of the book to the end of the book. We're holding the book right side up. We're recognizing that words are units that have beginnings and ends to them, and that there's certain orders that words go into. So children wouldn't necessarily be able to read a whole word to themselves by themselves. They might, but more likely they'd be able to recognize letters in words. And often that pictures are associated with the story. So if you said, "What is this about?" and the child saw a picture of a cat, that they might recognize that the book was about the cat, that the picture wasn't just a random cat thrown in there. And then during reading, things that you can do if you're assessing concepts about print is knowing that, again, words are units, and so that if you say, "Can you follow along with my finger? Can you follow along with your finger as I read?" that the child isn't reading the words, but they know to go to each new word as you stop and go to each new word. And so if you said, "Can you find the word cow in the sentence, the cow jumped over the moon," they might not remember to go to that second word. But if you said, "Follow along with me, the cow jumped," they would know to go from word to word. Possibly that punctuation marks go at the end of sentences. They might not know commas or semicolons or quotation marks at that point, or even that those aren't letters, but possibly the end of the sentence question marks. That there's a specific order to sentences. So if you read, again, "Ran under the couch my cat," and said, "Wow, that doesn't sound right. How do you think the author should write that?" Or, "Do you think I made a mistake when I read?" And the child might recognize that there was an error there. That they might know that the word reads right, left to right, as well as the whole sentence. And then, if the child's name begins with a M, they might be able to find M's, not necessarily recognizing every letter, because you might be administering this in pre-K. And then the other people chose Roberto, and you guys gave great answers if you chose Roberto. Just think, again, that all students benefit from moving around the classroom, and that work, when it's broken into chunks, especially with little kids, is going to be more helpful. Think also about manipulatives, moving things around, gluing things, especially if children are having dexterity problems in the earlier years. And so one of the things that I thought of was, okay, if Roberto has to maybe make a book, could you hide things in different Easter egg shells around, the plastic ones? And then Roberto has to come back and then, find them. And you sit down with Roberto and we open the eggs and we go, "Oh, that one says title. Where are you going to glue that on your book? Oh, that says page 1. Where are you going to glue that on your book?" And so he's moving around, he's gluing, he's not got the laborious task of writing the word page 1, because that could come later, or you could mix and match. Maybe he writes page 2 after you've given him page 1. Don't forget that your next assignment is due on 6/26. That's a quiz. It's always on a Friday. That your discussion post, number 2, is due on 6/28, but that you also have the topic for your New to Me paper due that day as well, and that's due in a discussion post also. And that the following Friday you have a quiz, and then you have a paper due that next Sunday without a discussion post. If you have any questions, please make sure that you're emailing Dr. Neely or myself, and that you're emailing through ELC if possible. And don't forget, if you email through ELC and have it forwarded to an Outlook account or another account, that you can't hit reply from that account. You have to go back into ELC to respond, which is one of those errors that Just takes making that mistake once or twice to remind us all, myself included. And thank you. I think we're off to a great